Hi everybody, Luke Gallant here from the YT624EJ maintenance channel. Episode 25, and I thought what I'd do is something a little bit different, and that is to summarize what the main issues are with the YT624 snowblower. I've had this is my 9th season now, as I've said before, and I think it's worth doing a summary video to kind of capture all the issues that a new buyer should look out for. So I'm going to run through the list, and this list is already documented in all my episodes. I'll give you episode references and I'll point out kind of where they are, and then you can go and chase down this information and kind of do with it what you will. So the first one we're going to go through is the gearbox that's between the impeller drive shaft and the auger. So this is a Wormgear. We first covered it in episode 2, and there was a continuation in episode 14 with an oil change and a rebuild. So one of the issues with this is that Yamaha, for some reason, uses 10W30 motor oil. There's a small disagreement among viewership, but it's been my decision to put in 80 weight gear oil into this gearbox. I stand to inspect it maybe next year. I'll be making a video on the outcome of that, but it's my firm belief that gear oil is far better for these kinds of worm gears because of the forces at play, and it was taken from some engineering handbooks. That gearbox, I would get the oil changed to gear oil, and we'll be seeing more on that later. The next one here is first seen in episode 17 and then again in episode 22. That is the chute direction control switch. So this is a switch to turn the chute left to right, and inside it's got some plastic pins that kind of wear out and break. I've tried a rebuild on this with some 3D printed parts, and it did work for a long time, but today actually I'm gonna have to put in a new switch that I got off Impex, because this one here is at the end of the road. It won't go left. It does go right, but it doesn't go left. I don't have the time to get into the mechanics of how and why. I think there's clearances in there that get larger and larger. I just don't have x-ray vision, and it's too time consuming. I'll do a post-mortem on the switch anyway, but I'm gonna be putting in a new one. Another one here is in episode 19. So the same lever that you use to adjust the chute height, there's a piece of metal that tends to get bent. And so I showed how to do those corrections to that and strengthen it. Otherwise, you'll have the bracket eventually crack over time, maybe 5, 6+ years. But if you want to maintain proper chute height control, you want to reinforce that bracket. Episode 23 featured this working light. Many people have experienced this, where if they run the snowblower without a battery, or if the battery dies, the LED will become fried. So in a very near-term episode, I'm going to be implementing a fix for that and showing you how to put in some protections for the light. It's not the best light. A lot of people have replaced it, but even if you replace the light, you'll want to protect it somehow. So check out that episode. Finally, we've got episode 16, which is on the cylinder that's on the back of the snowblower to do the height adjustment. So that cylinder has no gas in it or anything. It's just a cylinder that has kind of a clamp on there for the height. And when you pull the cable, it opens up the clamp, and then when you release it, it clamps back. Many people have reported that this cylinder fails, and it's extremely expensive. So some people have put on the Honda version. In that episode 16, I actually took it apart, cleaned it, and I think that could really extend the life, so I'd suggest doing that. And then the only other thing that I want to mention is kind of a regular maintenance item that's maybe more often than the others. In episode 9, we showed how to clean the spark arrestor. And I think if you don't do that, the spark arrestor will get full of carbon, and eventually is really going to affect how your machine runs. So I would do that regularly, more regularly than some of the other stuff. So yeah, I think that's the extent of it. We named 5 real issues, and beyond those 5 issues, I have nothing to say about the snowblower. It has been extremely reliable and does the job really, really well. But I would use the chapters, and I'll put the list in the description. I would stay on top of those to make your snowblowing experience better. So what I'm going to do now off camera is I'm going to take out this control switch. I'm going to put in the new one, and I'm not going to show how to do that because that's already captured in episode 17 and 22. Once I get the old one out, I'm going to do a couple tests on it, and I'll take it apart and see if I can do a bit of a post-mortem. Again, thanks for watching, and see you in a minute. All right, just a bit of bonus content here. I've got the switch that I removed from the snowblower after putting the new one in from Impex. I've got a meter attached to it, and I'm just simulating here what's happening. And it looks pretty repeatable, but I can't afford to spend any more time with a chute that doesn't work. I think part of what's happening is that the slop of the mechanism kind of adds up, and there may be some slop in the switch. So even though it works perfectly here, when the whole mechanism's assembled and you're toggling it left to right, it's missing a little bit of that stroke in order to get it to make continuity. So right now, on both sets of contacts, rather, sorry, to go left, when the switch goes left, I'm finding that I have 0.1 ohms. It was about 0.5 ohms earlier, but that should be good enough to get our motor to conduct. Okay, let's take it apart and see what it looks like, but then I'll be just putting it back together to have as a showpiece because I'm not putting that back in there. When the chute doesn't work, it's very frustrating. Here we go. So one of the things is that there's quite a bit of contact burning on there. Here, not too bad. Here, for example, you can kind of see it. Here as well, you can kind of see there's some contact burning there. So I think this should be able to all come off, but I'm pretty tired of this. So I've got some diamond files here. All right, so for what this thing is worth, I don't remember the price, but I don't feel like taking it apart and playing with it again. I think maybe it can be rehabilitated once, and then the next time it fails, I would just put a new one in. Unfortunately, even after getting it back together, in the one way it feels okay, but in this way here, it feels kind of marginal. So those little pegs and the whole mechanism inside, like it would be kind of hard to tune it. So I think it's just a wear item, unfortunately. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next video.